It's your such and such to pay taxes.
It's your duty.
Duty. So they call it a duty. So, but the Sugar Act was a direct tax, and we got to know the difference. So the Sugar Act placed a duty or a direct tax on certain items. Okay, Meg, you're in the swing now. What type of items did they tax?
Sugar.
Okay, but two things, sugar's one. What else did they tax that had a lot of sugar in it that people liked at the time?
Teas.
No, you have to put sugar in your own tea. What else is sugary? People like it in their coffee once in a while.
Creamers.
Well, prior to creamer, a little sugary, kind of stick it in, it's kind of jelly looking. What? Well, no, there's sugar, that's still sugar. It's kind of a liquidy, gummy stuff.
Honey?
What?
Honey?
Close. Wasn't honey yet, it was
Molasses.
molasses. Very good. So the two things that were taxed, well, there were three things, but two of the things that would be most common to you would be sugar. They taxed sugar, obviously, it's a Sugar Act. They also taxed molasses, which was a big deal then. But here's the third thing they taxed, a lot of people don't know. Any item that was imported into the United States from anywhere outside the British Empire was taxed. So if you bought something from France and it came in the country, so now they're going to put a duty or direct tax on those countries that are bringing stuff in. Now let's think about economics here. Okay, Sully buys a lot of goods from me, and I don't live in the British Empire. And all of a sudden now, when I get this beautiful necklace that she has on, she got that from me, all of a sudden now the British are going to tax me on bringing that stuff in. Who am I going to make that up on? Sully. Sully's going to be the one. I'm saying, Sully, those necklaces I sold you for $10. I'm getting kind of hit by the British taxes, so they're going to be 15 now. And who's going to be upset? Sully.
Launder them.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to go over for the meeting at the assembly, and this is the protocol of principles and procedures have it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thanks.
Sorry, you bet.
So anyway, Sully's going to pay the tax in the end. They're going to put that on to her. So what did the Sugar Act tax? It was a direct tax, and I'll tell you the difference in a minute. That put a direct tax on molasses, sugar, and any items that came in to the United States, not the United States, America, outside the British Empire. Okay? So France sold the American colonists something that was taxed. Belgium, etc. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what's a direct tax? Okay, they collect this tax money. A direct tax, the money goes directly to what? The organization that legislates the tax. So this direct tax, the Sugar Act tax, it's a direct tax. The proceeds from that tax go directly to the organization that passed the tax law. Who would that be?
Parliament.
Parliament, which in essence that money goes to Great Britain. And we'll talk about the difference in a minute. So a direct tax is a tax in which the proceeds from the tax go directly to the governmental entity that legislates the tax. In this case, who legislated the tax? Parliament. So when the British Parliament passed a law that calls for the collection of taxes, the British government gets the tax money. Do the colonists have any say in the English Parliament? So they're being taxed without any colonial representation, thus back to the term taxation without representation. Okay? All right, now, prior to this, do you think all of these colonies had to give money to run their colonies? Sure they did. And each colony had what they called a colonial assembly. So prior to the British getting re-involved in the colonies, the colony of Virginia ran itself, right? And did they collect taxes? Well, how else would they have survived? So colonial assemblies could pass a law that called for the collection of taxes. And who would receive that tax money? All 13 colonies? No. The British Parliament? No. Who would receive those monies? The colony itself. There's the difference. Now, a tax that produces revenue that goes to individual colonies are also direct taxes, right? Because the money's going to the government entity that passed the law, right? The difference between taxing in colonial assemblies and taxing as parliament is, did the colonists have representation when their colonies taxed them? Yes, because they had assemblies, they had legislators. So again, when colonial assemblies pass a law that calls for the collection of taxes, the individual colony receives that money. Now the tax produces a revenue that went to individual colonies, not the British government. They're still direct taxes, right? Because they're going to the entity that passed the law. The difference is, these colonial assemblies are elected by the people that live in the colonies, therefore they have a voice in that tax, and that is not taxation without representation. So were the colonists used to being taxed? Yes, but they were used to being taxed by their own assemblies, and they understood that and agreed to that because they had a say in that. They were very much against being taxed by the British government when all that money went back to Great Britain, and they had absolutely no say. Okay? And that's kind of that's the spark that starts the fire burning that's going to lead us down the line to revolution. That's just the kind of first spark. Now, if you were the British government, and you passed the Sugar Act, and you put all these restrictions on colonists that had never been taxed before by you, what might be your first concern? Other than the fact that they wouldn't do it. All right, now listen, Sully.
I'm getting you these necklaces, okay? Now I'm getting stuck, because every time I bring one of these necklaces into these British courts, they're sticking me for tax. And I gotta stick you for that tax. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna meet somewhere where nobody will see us, and I'll smuggle that necklace to you and nobody will know the difference. So what is the number one concern the British government has? Smuggling. Okay? That these foreign countries are going to come in and try to smuggle goods. So that means to import or export goods secretly or illegally. Do you think if an American colonist was a farmer or merchant, American colonial merchant, decided to send corn that they bought from the farmers to Great Britain, or excuse me, not to Great Britain, to France, do you think that they would be taxed on that? Yes or no? If a farmer sold his corn to a merchant, and the merchant was going to send that corn to France, is the British government going to tax that? You bet they are. So it wasn't only smuggling in to smuggling out. Okay? So the last thing we'll cover today is I'm going to give you 4 examples of how the British tried to control smuggling in and out of the colonies during the Sugar Act. So as a result of their concern over smuggling, the British government did the following to ensure that did not occur. What would be the first thing that you would do there, Charles? You're going to make sure I'm not pirating illegal pencils into here because you're trying to get a school tax out of them. What's the first thing you're doing to make sure that no illegal pencils come into this room? Would be the first thing you do. How would you do that? You're right, but how would you do that? Okay. Well, you're getting close. You're getting too specific because we're probably not going to bring the military in here. But you're right. So you're going to check people. One way to check them is to put British naval patrols right outside that door and check every single ship that came into harbor looking for smuggled goods. That's what they did. So Charles is right. He'd check. So one way he'd check is he'd stand out in front of that door there and make sure nobody brought any pencils in, even if you had to search your backpack or your ship to make sure you didn't have smuggled goods in. Very good. So the first thing they did is they put naval patrols outside all ports, and they inspected every ship that came in from a foreign port to make sure they didn't have any smuggled goods on board. Very good. Hey Julie, what might you do if these Swedish people were trying to smuggle crap into our country? You're from Sweden, aren't you? Aren't you from Sweden? Yeah. So what would you do if you were in America and these Swedish people trying to smuggle stuff in besides have naval patrols? What else might you do? Well, let's just say that, are you going to catch every pencil that comes in that door? No. So what would be your next step to do? If you didn't catch the smuggled goods that they got in, where do you think they would put those smuggled goods?
Well, oh, you're close, but we're gonna save you. Okay, we're saving you. Where else? Where else would they put these goods? Anybody know? They might put some in their homes. That'd be the little stuff. What about the big stuff they got in? Where would they put that?
Forest, country.
Well, but even they were more sophisticated than that. They actually built warehouses. They had warehouses. So the second thing the British did is they brought in inspectors, and they would search these big warehouses across the colonies to make sure that if this stuff did get smuggled in, that it wasn't in these warehouses. And if they caught it, they collected it. So British inspectors searched warehouses. Now, Julie, where else did they search? Private homes. Can you imagine these British inspectors are coming into private colonial homes without search warrants, so to speak, and they are searching your home to see if you have any contraband. How would you feel about that? So, you're searching the ports. If they get through the ports, you're searching the warehouses. If they get through the warehouses, you're searching the homes because they've probably been sold. And then you're still worried about a few that slipped through the cracks. So what might you do, snitcheroo? Caballero, what would you do if you wanted to make sure you got it all? What would you do, snitcheroo, Andrew?
You pay people.
They paid people to snitch. They offered rewards to American colonists to rat out citizens who were smuggling. They'd pay them to rat out their neighbors if they were smuggling. So those are the steps that British officials took to try to get smuggling under control. They brought patrols in to inspect all foreign ships coming into port. Then they went to warehouses to see if anything got through that, checked warehouses. Then they even went into private homes to check for this stuff. And then they even paid people to rat out their neighbors, friends, and others by giving them a reward to say they had smuggled goods. Okay? So the Sugar Act is going to be a little bit of a problem, and it's the first unpopular law that we've had, right, under Grenville. Now, basically our next subtopic, and you can write it down today and be ready for tomorrow, are two more unpopular laws by Parliament. So what we're going to do here tomorrow is we're going to talk about the Currency Act and the Quartering Act and how they continue to keep throwing these unpopular laws onto American colonists that's causing us to go crazy, get upset, and begin our revolt process. Okay? All right, there we go. That's it for today. Did a good job. Very engaged. I'd like to see that.